This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
At Pluralsight, we don't just teach skills. We are building the tech workforce who deliver results fast, accelerated by top-tier content. Lead with confidence. Lead with expertise. Visit us at Pluralsight.com to tap in and learn more.
He's a former Philadelphia warrant investigator. He was part of the now famous Philly Warrant Unit. He left to become a lawyer, went to law school, and then became a professor of criminal justice. He's here to talk about the drug problem in Kensington, how they dealt with it, and much more. Welcome to the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. In the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show, we are joined by special guests talking about their experiences, the realities of investigating crimes, plus those who have experienced horrendous trauma. Police, first responders, military, and victims of crime share their stories. Hi, I'm John J. Wiley. In addition to being a broadcaster, I'm also a retired police sergeant. Be sure to check out our website, letradio.com, and also like us on Facebook. Search for the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. You know, we used to have an app, and it was a very popular app. And then, guess what? We couldn't hold a candle to our Facebook presence. How many people have the mobile Facebook app already installed on their phone? How many people use it on their computer? Make sure you follow us. Make sure you like us on our Facebook page. Just search for Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show and Podcast, and be sure to send us a comment to one of the posts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Joining us from Ohio, we have Tristin Kilgallon on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Tristin is a former Philadelphia warrant investigator. I don't know what that is. I really don't, but we'll talk about that in a moment. We'll both learn. He left the warrant squad, became a lawyer, went to law school, became a lawyer, and was a professor of criminal justice. He's author of the book Philly Warrant Unit, and his Facebook page, you can get more information, is Philly Warrant Unit Book. That's Philly Warrant Unit Book. Tristin, A, thanks for your service. B, thank you for being a guest on the show. It's very much appreciated.
Hey, thanks. It's great to be here.
It's good to have you here. And as we said beforehand, I don't know too many Tristins. The only Tristin I know is on that television show, and I don't know him personally. The character is All Creatures Great and Small, and I can't remember who it was, but that's not a name we come across very often.
Yeah, it's a rare name. My father's from England. He actually named me after the island of Tristan da Cunha. When I was a kid, I'm almost 50 years old, was not a very popular name. And then Brad Pitt had the name in Legends of the Fall, if you remember that film.
Oh, yeah.
And then it became immensely popular. But unfortunately, I don't look like Brad Pitt. But,
Look, I don't look like Brad Pitt either. You're in good company. I jokingly tell people I have a face for radio and a figure to match. And this is a city I've only been to a couple times, Philadelphia, and it's not far from Baltimore where I did my policing. And many things about it are very similar, but I really don't know much about Philadelphia. You started your career in Philly as a part of the Warrant Unit. Am I correct?
Yeah, Warrant Unit. So basically, I'm not one of those guys who kind of always thought that he was going to be in law enforcement. Like a lot of guys I worked with had families who were in law enforcement or were former military. I was actually in grad school when I was working part-time as a bail interviewer, and happened to be in the same building. And, after enough time, I thought it sounded like a good deal, and wound up being a warrant investigator in Philly, which was, really kind of cool. It's a unique unit, and you're familiar. You worked in law enforcement. Most officers, if you make an arrest, you're tied up for hours, kind of limits your night. One of the beautiful things about our unit was we worked off of basically bench warrants and or detainers or things like that. So if we caught you on the street, we just take you to the county jail with the warrant or the detainer. So we could lock up 20 people in a night sometimes, which sounds unheard of to the average officer, because we just really didn't have that much paperwork. And the areas we worked in, there was literally, tens of thousands of wanted people. So it was, to some extent, like shooting fish in a barrel.
And I, in a way, I'm jealous because so much of our work was paperwork, and it wasn't very often you arrested people. The vast majority of calls were not arrestable offenses, but when you did, that tied up 6-7 hours of your night.
Yeah. I mean, that's the beautiful thing. Like, we would run in teams. So usually we would have 3-person teams. You'd have kind of 2 people, 1 driver, 1 what we used to call the recorder, which was the person who would usually knock on the door and do all the talking. And then you'd have a 3rd person that was your runner. So if you got into a foot chase, they'd jump out the back seat and run, or they'd go out to the back of the property when we hit it. And we would have, depending on what shift you work, maybe 4 or 5 different teams spread out throughout the city. Some shifts have more, some have less. I worked last out, so 11 to 7 most of my career. And then at the end, before I left to go to law school, it was strictly a weekend gig. So we knocked out 40 hours in kind of like, 2.5 days essentially. But we got to run teams all over the city, different neighborhoods. I predominantly stayed in Kensington, but then we would have like a 12-person passenger van just shuttling back and forth between us, fill it up, and then run it up to Curran Fromhold Correctional. So it was, it's beautiful in that regards if you're in law enforcement, very streamlined and designed to let us kind of, do what we do best, is find fugitives.
Well, you remind me of my days early in my police career in Baltimore. I worked in what we called operations, which was like a TAC unit, crime suppression unit. And my partner, his name was Joe. He was an ultra marathoner. And so he always wound up in the passenger seat, and I was more the fighter. So when people took off running, he's the one who chased them, and I'd follow him in the car. And when they caught him, if they had any fight left in them, I would take care of business. It was... it fit his skill set perfectly and mine perfectly as well. One thing I am jealous about is we didn't have, for example, when we wrote warrants, which is not that often, you quite often wouldn't know what happened. It was someone else served you. Sheriff's Department, unit, fugitive unit, whatever it might be, would serve it, and you wouldn't even be aware.
I will say with us was very similar. Like a lot of times we lock people up. Now, I will say this. You get a lot of repeat customers because the areas we worked in was a lot of drug users, prostitution, kind of low-level offenders.
Right.
So, you could lock them up and they'll be back out 3 days later. That's going to happen. More serious cases, we'd be in a similar boat. If you got called in to testify, so if we just locked you up on the warrant, that's usually the end of the road. We have no idea what happens unless I proactively go back and look through the records, the court records, to figure it out, Now, if we had an incident, say you fought us or we found a gun or drugs on you when we picked you up, and we'd have to testify in court later, obviously you kind of know what happens. But other than that, we were in the same boat. You'd kind of pick them up, turn them in, and then, who knows what happens. Maybe you see them a few days later. Maybe you don't, but if you wanted to find out, it was largely up to you to go and do the legwork, look through the court records, and find out what happened to the person.
Quite often what happened with us is we'd wind up writing an arrest warrant, and we wouldn't know about it until they're apprehended, and we got something in a subpoena to show up in court.
Yeah, we'd have fun with those. They'd usually give those to us the morning of, which I used to hate because we would work last out. So, I come rolling into my desk at 7 in the morning, and I'm filthy because I've been going through crack houses all night and have human feces on my shoe covered in fleas and sweat. And then you come in and there's a subpoena sitting on your keyboard. You have court in an hour and a half, So they kind of used to do us dirty in the warrant unit when it came to showing up for the subpoenas. Instead of giving you a few days so you could schedule day shift and then come in dressed appropriately, you just show up and it will be sitting there. And unless it was like a really big case, like that you'd never even meet with the DAs, you just kind of showed up. Now, if it was a big case, like I had a couple, pretty big drug ones where they would meet with you ahead of time and prep you. But other than that, it was kind of shoot us. You just show up and it's sitting there.
How long did you do this with the Philly Warrant Unit?
Only about 3 years. I went in when I was probably about 27 or something. And then by the time I was 30, it was a great job. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But, as you can imagine, it's a lot of danger. You're working in a city like Philly, very similar to Baltimore. There's danger around every corner. We're working in the worst places imaginable. And you're hitting 8 houses a night. And if I'm doing the weekend shift, more than that. So 8 times a night, I'm knocking at your door at 3 in the morning and hoping someone doesn't have a gun on the other side. And I think that kind of started to wear on my wife pretty quickly. And one of the other problems is we weren't paid very well. So if you're making, I don't know,
Boy,
back
can I
then we might
relate
have
to
been making
that.
35 grand or something. It's just, you start doing that mental calculus. Do I want to get shot in the face for 35 grand? And eventually my wife's like, hey, man, try law school. And, I eventually did.
Well, here's the thing, and we're going to go break in a moment. When I started policing in Baltimore, our starting pay was $13,280 a year. We were so poor, we couldn't afford the R. And you couldn't have an apartment by yourself. And by the way, Tristin was a part of the Philly Warrant unit, which he's going to talk about a little bit more. He left that, went to law school, which he's going to talk about, and then became a professor of criminal justice, which he'll talk about. He's also co-author of the book, or author of the book, Philly Warrant Unit. And the best place to find him is on Facebook. Look for the Philly Warrant Unit book. That's Philly Warrant Unit book on Facebook. This is Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. We'll take a short break. I promise you, we'll be right back.
How would you like a free ebook on tips to improve your health? We're talking about tips you can use for free to add years to your life. Best of all, the ebook is free to download at lethealthy.com. When we say free, we mean free, so you can download the free ebook to improve your physical health, all while preserving your financial health. Get the ebook for free today at lethealthy.com. That's at lethealthy.com. Again, the website is lethealthy.com.
My place in tech changes every day, but I don't fear the future because I'm with the leader, Pluralsight. Their online learning platform has the hands-on, expert-led courses I need to master new tech skills and create bigger impacts, so I can learn quickly and stay ahead. With Pluralsight, I don't fear what's next. I embrace it. Tap in at pluralsight.com and see for yourself.
Lowe's early Black Friday deals are going fast. Don't miss up to 50% off select major appliances. Plus, up to an extra 25% off when you bundle select major appliances. And with Christmas around the corner, you're going to need more string lights, right? Save $4 on GE LED 100-count string lights, now just $5.98. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 12/3. Selection varies by location. Select locations only. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
Return conversation with Tristin Kilgallon on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. He is a former Philadelphia warrant investigator. He is part of the famous Philly Warrant Unit. He left to become a lawyer, went to law school, then became a professor of criminal justice. I don't know why he thought that would be a great idea, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. He's author of the book Philly Warrant Unit, and best place to get more information about him. And the book is Facebook page, Philly Warrant Unit book. That's Philly Warrant Unit book on Facebook. Before the break, Tristin, we talked about briefly, you were signed primarily to Kensington. Now, that's an area that has, I don't know how long it's been, but that's become synonymous with drug use and walking zombies and just addicts galore. Was it that way with you?
Well, it was there when I worked in the warrant. When I worked in the warrant unit. I will tell you this. It initially, if you look at the history of Kensington, probably like most, a lot of industrial cities in America, was once a thriving place where lots of people came, lots of work, lots of factories. And then when all those jobs kind of, left the major cities like Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Philly, everybody else got, kind of decimated, it started to fall into disrepair, the neighborhood. So I went to high school from 90 to 94, and my high school was North Catholic High School. Doesn't exist anymore, but it was in Kensington. Uh-huh. And, a lot of my friends lived in Kensington, so I spent, a good amount of my life down there. And I will say this, it was always kind of a rough working class neighborhood. Like, you always had to kind of watch your back, but it wasn't what it is today. So if you see it today, most people see it from YouTube, where it literally looks like The Walking Dead. No matter what time you go there, it could be noon or it could be 3 a.m. There's 8 million people nodding out, bent over, open trash can fires like you'd see in some third world movie or something, right? And it's just open air drug markets. These are $1 million drug corners, and there's people everywhere you look. And, I would talk to students about this stuff, and they're like, why don't you lock them up? And the answer is you simply can't. There's too many of them. them.
Right.
I mean, I'd always joke, if you went to Kensington and Allegheny or Somerset or one of these corners and just threw a big fishing net and caught 30 people, 27 of them would have warrants and all of them would have drugs on them.
Right.
And you just simply can't do that. We don't have the manpower. And in a place like Philly, probably very similar to Baltimore, you have to prioritize those spaces in the county jail. And quite frankly, if I pick you up a prostitute with $50 or $30 worth of crack on you, the detectives and the DAs can't be bothered. They don't want to deal with that. They'd rather deal with murderers, rapists, more serious offenders. So it's kind of a tough situation to be in. And it seems like it's just getting worse and worse and worse. So the guy I wrote the book with, my co-author, goes down to Kensington and shoots videos and puts them on YouTube. And you can kind of see what it's like. People with open sores. It's just, it's terrible. I mean, defecating in the streets and the parks. I mean, one chapter in the book I kind of talk about, there's a place called Needle Park. And it was a park. It was literally right across from my best friends from high school's house. It's on the very corner I kissed a girl for the first time. This place has some sentimental value to me. And it's just kind of now just, heroin users. You go over there, they're asleep on the sidewalk. There's needles everywhere you look. And this is a place where you used to play stickball and hang out. And you can't even go there now because it's just needles everywhere you look and OD, drug addicts. It's terrible.
One of the things that the big place that has a reputation for Philadelphia is South Philly. In your estimation, which is tougher, South Philly or Kensington?
Well, Philly, here's the thing about Philadelphia. The whole place is a zoo, to be fair, right? Everything is a mess. It's just a matter of what are you looking for? Pick your poison. So if you go into Kensington, Kensington is overwhelmingly drug users who are, I don't want to say they're not dangerous. I mean, to be fair, if they had a gun, they would have sold it for drugs, so they're not going to shoot you.
Right.
But with million dollar drug corners comes drug gangs, right? So the people that are running the drugs are really dangerous. And most of the time when you're dealing with that neighborhood, you're dealing with a lot of guys from overseas, so a lot of guys from Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, places like that, and they're running it there. Now, if you go to other neighborhoods, usually it's just different ethnicities or different types of drugs. So Kensington's big for like heroin and crack. If you head out to West Philly, it's probably more African-American, obviously, and you're going to have different drugs and different types of groups of individuals working in these areas. So it's hard to say one area is more dangerous or less dangerous than any other. It's just different types of violence, different types of criminals, different types of drugs and problems that present. So South Philly, as most people are probably familiar with from, Rocky and all that stuff, traditionally has been heavily, identified with the Italian-American community. Now that's changed over the years too. You have people from all different areas coming in and moving in. So, the makeup of the neighborhoods has changed a lot over the last 25 years or so. So it's kind of hard to say, what's better or worse. It's kind of degrees of bad, honestly.
So before we get into the conversation change, because you made some major changes in your career, when I started policing in Baltimore, we had a huge heroin problem, and we still do. We had what do you call boxing gloves? Their hands would be all swollen up. We had tester ladies they'd inject in their neck. They'd all wear scarves. And then a little thing called crack cocaine came through, and it changed the complexion of Baltimore tremendously for the negative. Did you encounter that at all, or was that beyond that time frame you were there?
Well, I'll tell you this. Like I was saying earlier, it really depended what neighborhood you were in. So, like, if I'm in Kensington, it's overwhelmingly heroin. You get a bit of crack as well, kind of to counter the heroin and maybe a little bit of marijuana. But if you go to other neighborhoods, it's different drugs. I will say this. Heroin is hit big in Philly, and I don't know when it started, maybe early 2000s or so. I've done some research on this on the back end, like when I was a professor on opioid abuse and stuff, when you have these different waves. But I think probably early 2000s, you start seeing a heck of a lot more heroin than you did before. So I think that's changed. And now, because I still have guys that are working down in these areas that are friends of mine, heroin has then jumped up to fentanyl and tranq and all these other kind of weird drug cocktails and synthetics that are getting added in. So it's always kind of changing, and you always got to be aware of, all right, what's on the streets now? I got to be careful if I'm touching this stuff. Can I accidentally absorb it or ingest it or inhale it? So I think you do see a bit of a change, but it's still heavy heroin, but now heroin plus, the other things, the additives they're throwing in.
right now as we speak, there's someone that's trying heroin for the first time, and they think they're going to be the one that's going to be okay. And I'm letting you know right now, you're not. And I get it, where people became addicted to opioids through medication, and then when they lost their supply of that, they went to street heroin. I understand that. But here's what I always say. I don't have a problem with people who are drug addicts. I don't have a legal problem, and most police don't. However, their behavior is another matter. If you do crimes to feed your drug habit, which most do, then that's where the problem lies. Is that fair for you?
Yeah, I went to law school, and I'll just say this: a lot of the people I went to law school with smoke marijuana and use cocaine. And I will say this: I know lots of lawyers that still do both. I've never met a functioning heroin addict. No. You know, it's not something that you can dabble with on the weekends, and I think people need to be aware of that. I'll tell you, most of the people that I saw that were heroin addicted down in Kensington, a lot of them are prostitutes, and a lot of them had the same story. Most of them were kind of normal girls. Maybe you met some guy, and I'm not going like the gateway thing where you smoke some weed and then it led to the next. But most of the time, what you'd find is the boyfriend got them into drugs. Then they start doing heroin recreationally. You start selling off everything you own. You then start stealing, right? You lose your job because you're not reliable anymore. You start stealing from your family and friends. And eventually you've got nothing left.
We're going to take a short break on that note.
Out on the avenue.
We're talking with Tristin Kilgallon. He's a former Philadelphia Warrant investigator, part of the Philly Warrant Unit. He co-authored the book, Philly Warrant Unit, and his Facebook page. You can get more information about him in the book, phillywarrantunitbook.com. This is Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Don't go anywhere. We got so much more ahead. We'll be right back. One of the questions I get all the time is, how can I show my support for law enforcement? We're all busy. We've got busy lives, but there's something oh so simple you can do with our Facebook page. Search for Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show Facebook page. And when you see a post you agree with that resonates with you, share it, especially episodes of the podcast. To do all that, just search for us on Facebook, look for Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show, and be sure to click like.
Worried about your future in tech? Master new skills, accelerate your team's impact, and redefine what's possible with Pluralsight. We're more than just another online learning platform. We're shattering the skills gap and shaping future generations of technologists. Transform your work. Transform your team. Ready to tap in? Visit us at pluralsight.com to learn more.
Lowe's early Black Friday deals are going fast. Don't miss up to 50% off select major appliances. Plus, up to an extra 25% off when you bundle select major appliances. And with Christmas around the corner, you're going to need more string lights, right? Save $4 on GE LED 100-count string lights, now just $5.98. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 12/3. Selection varies by location. Select locations only. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
Return our conversation with Tristin Kilgallon on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Tristin is a former Philadelphia Warrant investigator, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and he has co-authored the book Philly Warrant Unit. And the best place to find him, find more information about the book's Facebook, look for Philly Warrant Unit Book. That's Philly Warrant Unit Book. He left a warrant investigator job to go to law school, which we'll talk about in a few moments, then became a professor of criminal justice. I don't know why he did that. We'll talk about it in a few moments. Tristin, I get you're not the first, and I'm using this term loosely, police person I met that I knew of several that left law, most finished their career, and then went to law school while they're in their career and became lawyers. So you're actually, I'd say, not an anomaly at all.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's kind of a natural path if you think about it. I mean, if you do have an interest in the law and enforcing the law and keeping your community safe, there are a number of ways you can do that. Obviously, one is to put on the badge and a gun and go out and patrol the streets. But the other one is by serving as an attorney, especially if you're going to do criminal work. I had honestly I enjoyed the warrant unit, absolutely loved it. But my wife started giving me a little bit of pressure, because what we do is very dangerous, and said, why don't you try this out? You're a smart guy. And I thought to myself, why not? I'll give it a shot. shot. And I applied to law school. I think I applied to 30 of them and just thought, hey, let's see what happens, because I knew nothing about it, didn't prepare, didn't do any groundwork. And then got lucky and got scholarships to a bunch of schools. And I thought, let's give it a shot.
And you were like, what, 30 when you went to law school?
Yeah, yep. I was 30 when I went to law school, and I got out at 33.
So you were the old timer in law school, because a lot of them are just
back then, yes. Now you get a lot of older people. Back then, yes.
Were you also one of the few that came from a law enforcement background that went to law school?
Yeah, I mean, it's not unheard of. I mean, just from being around universities for the last 15 years, it's not unheard of to have cops go to law school. I mean, I had a number of students of mine that did it. But I think more common, especially if you're a little bit older, was to have former military folks. So we had a number of guys that were, Army, Marines, Air Force, and then once they were done their careers, 30 years old or so, they all came out and went to law school. So that's kind of common.
So when you went to law school, did you ever sit there and think to yourself, this is drawing on your law enforcement background, did you ever think, yeah, that sounds good in theory, but in reality it doesn't work? Doesn't work like that.
All the time, and as a professor as well. I mean, I remember the first time I taught a criminal investigation case, I bought this giant textbook from, the big publishing companies, and I read it, and I thought, my Lord, this sounds great, but none of this actually works. Like, whoever did this has never actually done an investigation in their life. Law school is similar. I mean, you have, and, not to knock academia, but one of the problems with academia is a lot of the folks in it have never actually done the things they claim to be great at, right? So you'd have these discussions, and professors like, well, what about this? And I'm like, yeah, that's not how it works. I mean, I understand that might be what the law says or whatever your book says, but in reality, that's not how these present, So it's a night and day from, I guess, theoretical to the practical.
And there comes a stage in every police career where you turn into a bit of that salty guy. I did, and when I say guy, that means men and women. It's not just gender specific to males only. So did you find that when you went to law school that you were becoming a little salty?
I don't know if I was salty. To be honest, I quite enjoyed it. I mean, law school is really weird. It's like going back to middle school. It's very cliquey and very, I don't know, it wasn't like regular college. I mean, by the time I went to law school, I'd done undergrad. I had 2 master's degrees, and they were kind of normal.
Dude, you had 2 masters.
It was like Saved by the Bell. So it was a weird situation.
Wait a second. You had 2 master's degrees before you went to law school?
Yeah. I mean, I earned a bachelor's degree and then got into law enforcement. I wanted to work for the State Department initially, and one of the alums from my high school said, go get a master's degree in international relations, so I did, and it just never got me what I wanted. So then I worked with the Warrant unit, and they had a deal with St. Joe's University in Philly that you got basically tuition remission. So I figured, why not? If I can get another master's degree for half price, why not knock it out,
The reason I bring that up, Tristin, is because there is a common misconception that, and I use the term police, but the police are ignorant, they're stupid, they're not well educated. Obviously, you and I know that's not true. But you had 2 master's degree and a bachelor's degree.
Yeah, I mean, what I found was most of the older guys, like our lieutenants and sergeants and, higher up guys, didn't. A lot of them had gone to schools to play football and dropped out or didn't finish, But with the guys that came in my wave would have been like 03, 04, around there. A lot of them did have at least bachelor's degrees, like a number of the people in my training class did. And then once they offered you the tuition remission, a bunch of us went and got master's degrees, which is kind of funny because I think it spawned some of the older guys to go back and complete their degrees because they were afraid we were going to jump over them.
Yeah. And by the way, the modern day police, the ones we see and we encounter on a daily basis, and we love to, I don't say we, but people love to make judgments about them based off appearance. A lot of these people are military veterans. A lot of them have college degrees. They have multiple college degrees. They speak multiple languages. They are not slouches. They could work anywhere, and for some reason they choose to do this. And I don't understand why.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think it's just commitment to serve. I mean, as a professor, I've served on organizations where we hosted like career fairs, and you see the agencies come out. And I mean, to be honest, agencies are dying for good personnel now. I mean, when I was at ONU, I would get letters from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I get stuff from San Diego, all over the country, just desperate to try to get good quality candidates. So, I mean, I guess it's a good environment if you're a job seeker, but if you're the employer, it's tough now. A lot of people are just, afraid to go into law enforcement. It's a shame.
When I I started in the job in 1980, we had a lot of guys in Baltimore that, when I say guys, that's men and women. I'm not going to explain it again. But we had a lot of guys from Ohio. We had a lot of people from New York because their agencies weren't hiring, but Baltimore was. And then places like Houston, other ones were hiring. They had national drives on to try to get people. And they were, back in the days before we were on lateral transfers, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for people with experience. College degrees was not a requirement to go into law enforcement in most major cities. Somewhere along the way, it became a requirement, and then a lot of associate's degrees, some bachelor's degrees, and now it seems to be going the other way. So have you seen in your experience a difference in the level of candidates with a college degree compared to not?
I don't think that the degree is the determining factor. I think it's the candidates. I was a professor for 15 years, and I can tell you, or 14 years, and I can tell you when I came in, the quality of student was much higher than it is now. Now it's one of the reasons I left higher ed, quite frankly. Now if a kid gets anything other than an A, you get in trouble and you have to explain why this kid didn't do well, right? And it's just it's mind numbing. So you're turning out kids that aren't prepared for the streets because they're not prepared for anything, quite frankly. Not all of them, of course, but I mean, if I'm looking at them in big monoliths, big groups, the students are less prepared now than they were 15 years ago. Now, I think a college degree can help you. It's not going to make you a good cop, but I think there are definitely some things that you can learn that can help you, when you're doing the job. But reality is, the best teacher of law enforcement is just being on the job, is experience. But I think if you have all those things, sometimes it can help you out. But I don't think the degree makes the man, as it were, So you left law enforcement and you went to law school. You said both were good experiences, working in law enforcement and law school. Which did you prefer? It depends. I mean, law school was great because I was 30 and it was like I was 18 again because I got to hang out at parties and drink beer. It was fun. But like career-wise and stuff like that, I mean, I think law enforcement was awesome. I mean, I was fortunate. I got to work with my best friend from when we were children. We're partners. The guys I worked with, I still to this day, talk to them regularly. They're like brothers and sisters to me. And you can never kind of replace it. I've talked to my wife. I think maybe if you're in the military or police or you served in some kind of unit where you're relying on each other for your life, there's a bond that forms. And law school was awesome, and hanging out was great, learning about the law was great, but nothing compares to working a warrant unit.
We're talking with Tristin Kilgallon. He is a former Philadelphia warrant investigator. He left law enforcement to go to law school, became a lawyer, then became a college professor, which we'll talk about in a few moments. He's co-authored the book Philly Warrant Unit. That's Philly as in Pennsylvania Warrant Unit. And best place to find him, get information about the book, is on Facebook. Their Facebook page is Philly Warrant Unit Book. This is Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. We'll take a short break. I promise you, we'll be right back.
Remember when free meant free? No charge, no credit card information needed. Well, a place like that still exists on the internet. The Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show website, letradio.com. Where everything is free, including the podcast, episodes are available after airing on radio. The website is letradio.com. That's letradio.com. Where free means free.
Lowe's early Black Friday deals are going fast. Don't miss up to 50% off select major appliances. Plus, up to an extra 25% off when you bundle select major appliances. And with Christmas around the corner, you're going to need more string lights, right? Save $4 on GE LED 100-count string lights, now just $5.98. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 12/3. Selection varies by location. Select locations only while supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
Return conversation with Tristin Kilgallon on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Tristin is a former Philadelphia warrant investigator. He co-authored the book Philly Warrant Unit, and the Facebook page, best place to find more information about the book and him is Facebook page, Philly Warrant Unit Book. That's Philly Warrant Unit Book on Facebook. So he left law enforcement, went into law school, became a lawyer. We talked about that. And then somewhere along the way, I'm saying this in tongue in cheek, he got the bright idea, hey, let's become a college professor, and jumped right into the fire for someone who worked in law enforcement. What possessed you to become a criminal justice professor?
To be honest, serendipity. Same way I became a law enforcement officer. Like, I never planned to work in law enforcement. I kind of fell into it. Professor was the same thing. So essentially, I finished my JD, I guess, May of 2010. My law school had an LLM program, which is kind of a master's in law, and I'd already done like half of it, so I decided I'll come back and I'll do the other half of it. I just had to do an internship in Kosovo. So I said, okay, I'll do that.
Wait, you're doing an internship
while I was there,
in Kosovo, in Europe?
Yep, Kosovo. I worked with the Ministry of Justice over there for like 3 months, like the spring semester, essentially, of one of the years. And then when I came back, the guy who was teaching criminal justice, if you guys know, the school year usually starts in like kind of mid-August, the guy up and abruptly quit like July 30th or something. So they were like, we're basically in a tough position. We need someone to pinch hit for a year. Would you mind teaching some criminal justice classes? Just because I knew some of the other professors. And I was like, why not? My kids are in school. If I just push this off another year, it's okay. We're in safe Ohio, better than being in Philly, right? And then 1 year just became 14. I did it, kind of liked it. The students took to me, I took to them, and I thought, I'll do this. Now that changes over time as, a lot of my work started to become, I guess, vitriolic after the first Trump election. As you know, higher ed is kind of crazy politically. And everybody started like turning on me. I wasn't some great, MAGA dude, Trump this and that. I just refused to partake in their, ridiculous strikes over the election and wearing the hats. You're probably familiar with the hats they wear, right? Like, I just wasn't having it. I'm not playing that game. And then everybody kind of turned on me, and it just became, getting attacked for politics for years afterwards. And then finally just said, I had enough of this amount.
The funny thing is, Tristin, and someone, if they pin me down, by the way, I don't do any partisan political content on the show. And most people, one of the biggest compliments I can get working in radio is that they don't know where I stand politically. And that's done for a reason. So I am by nature more conservative. It depends on the issue. Certain things I'm very liberal about or progressive about, but by nature I'm very conservative. However, when it comes to the whole Republican Democrat thing, I shut people down. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to be a part of it. And I'm like you. I'm not going to engage.
Yep. I mean, that's one of the biggest problems. I mean, when I came up, universities were supposed to be, the marketplace of ideas, where you can come in with conservative or liberal ideas, you debate them, and you kind of figure out what's best for you. The problem is now at universities, I mean, there's studies that show you're more likely to find an openly socialist professor than just a simple old Republican, which should be kind of half the country's half Dems, half Republicans. But, they've become, I mean, they're just what they call echo chambers, essentially, where they're all saying the same stuff and they're all pushing the same ideas. And I'd say to myself, like, look, man, you teach chemistry. What are you doing out here propagandizing to these students about politics? Like, just teach chemistry. Do your job. If the political science professors want to talk about it or CJ issues come up, no problem. But you don't need to be indoctrinating kids. And that's not a popular opinion to have in higher ed, surprisingly.
Did you notice a change? And you said earlier, this is part of the reason why you left, the change in the caliber of the students. And part of that, I think, is that we condition our students to be that way from high school onwards. And it becomes more indoctrination than education and free thinking. But that's just my opinion. When did you start to see a change?
I mean, I'll tell you, even my son graduated from high school probably 5 years ago out here in Ada, Ohio, middle of nowhere. I mean, it's most known for ONU law and the NFL football factories there, the Wilson Football Factory. My son wrote a paper, great paper. I read it. It was really good. And a teacher gave him a B and set on it because she didn't like his political view. And I was just like, this is insane. Tell her I'm going to sue her. You can't give my son a lower grade because you're, a rampant leftist and you disagree with his opinion. Like, that was insane to me. Like, I thought she should be fired for that. Like, how dare you, interpret someone's political opinion as right or wrong as far as test points go. So, it's crazy. And I think these kids have been conditioned. It's like Pavlov's dog. They know when the professor says something, what they're supposed to say. And I've talked with students about this. They've come to me about student groups getting shut down. So, for example, my last university, they were trying to sell Back the Blue shirts, and they refused to let them sell it, and it turned into like a big national incident. And it really upset me that, they would try to silence the students when they're doing exactly what they should be doing, exploring their interests and pushing for things they support.
Right. No, I agree with you. And one of the things my dad, may he rest in peace, used to always say is that, and this is going way back because he died 30 some odd years ago. He said, you could tell the people who went to college because they could not write at all. And this is something he would say in the 1980s. How true is that today?
Well, they can't write at all now. I mean, it's bad. And not all of them. I mean, there's always good students. Don't get me wrong. Not everybody, but as a monolith, as a group, their critical thinking skills are terrible. Their writing skills, reading skills are terrible. I had kids. I mean, I've had students that were in my classes that were Division I football players. I had a kid who played multiple years at a big D1 school, blew out his knee, and came to our small school. The kid could not read. Like, he did a presentation and he didn't show up for it. So I was like, where the heck is this kid at? So class lets out, and then he comes in like, oh, I got my presentation. I was like, dude, that was 20 minutes ago. But I thought, like, let's see if he really did it. And he put it up on the screen, and the kid couldn't read his own work, which obviously means someone else did it for him. But he couldn't read. And I just thought, like, my God, this is bad. I think they also write in, like, text speak or, however you type online, and that's how they do academic papers, which is terrible. But I think the biggest problem we run into now is going to be AI. Because you have these kids who couldn't write or read 2 weeks ago. Now all of a sudden AI wrote their paper and it looks better than something the professor would write, right? And it's just going to push them back further because they're not actually learning.
Here's the big drawback before we go back to you. I use AI extensively because writing is not my strong suit, but I always create the content first, and then I'll ask like ChatGPT or Meta AI or whatever, rewrite this in a form of a blog article, whatever it might be. And then I do some basic editing on that. I went to a college preparatory seminary in Richmond, Virginia, and we had 3 years of Latin. We had to learn that. I remember translating Latin's Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey from English to Latin as a summer assignment. Things have certainly changed. Well, I got to ask you this, Tristin. Knowing what you came from a law enforcement background, being a lawyer, did you find it really challenging and tough to go into becoming a college professor?
Initially, no. And maybe this is just the most simplistic thing in the world. Like, if I mess up at the warrant unit, I might not go home today, or someone else might not go home if I got to shoot them or something bad happens. The way I always looked at teaching is, if I don't do something wrong, who cares? Right? If I do something wrong, rather, who cares? No one's going to die. Nothing major is going to happen. If there's some disagreement or you don't explain something right or someone doesn't get it, no one's going to die. So I think that took a lot of the pressure right off the bat. If I can walk into crack houses in Kensington, I can look at the department chair, some loser who's never had a real job in his life, right? So, I mean, I think that took a little pressure off. First years was great, honestly. People were real cordial, real cool. And then, like I said, everything just got political, and it just didn't need to. And that's, I think, when it started to change. And I hit this bad kind of crux where it's like, what do I do? They want me to leave because I don't espouse their viewpoint. But at the same time, I almost think like I owe it to these kids to stay here and let them have another viewpoint other than the majority. But it gets to a point where it just gets so overwhelming. Eventually you're like, look, I see everyone's against me. I'm just done with this. I can go do something else.
You got to get to a point where
professors don't make any money either. I think people think they make tons of money. They make garbage money. So I can be abused elsewhere for money, right? Why would I stay?
And there comes a point where I begin to feel like Don Quixote and tilting on windmills, and it's just like, let someone else face that battle. Very quickly, we're almost out of time. You co-wrote the book Philly Warrant Unit. What is it about?
Well, it's basically the experience of me and my former partner, Mark Fusetti. It's written like a series of short stories. So it's not just one narrative kind of book. It's broken down into short chapters. Some of them are a page or two long. Some of them are multiple pages. But they're just like, a whole bunch of different incidents and stories of cases that we encountered in real life. Some of them are crazy. So there's some shootouts, rooftop chases, fights, the stuff you'd expect. But there's some funny stories, too, because a lot of the job, there's some serious stuff. A lot of it is fun. It's camaraderie. You and your buddies kind of making fun of each other and messing around. So there's some of that in there, and there's some redemption stories because some of the girls.
And we're almost out of time. Get more information about the book and Tristin at the Facebook page, Philly Warrant Unit Book. That's Philly Warrant Unit Book. Tristin, thanks for so much for your service and for being a guest on the show. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
Of all the radio stations in the United States, there are no other shows like the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. And on Facebook, there's only one official page. Do a search on Facebook for the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. And be sure to like the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show Facebook page. I'd like to thank our guests for coming on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. The Law Enforcement Talk radio show is a nationally syndicated weekly radio show broadcast on numerous AM and FM radio stations across the country. We're always adding more affiliate stations. If you enjoyed the podcast version of the show, which is always free, please do me a favor and tell a friend or two or three. I'll be back in just a few days with another episode of the Law Enforcement Talk radio show and podcast. Until then, this is John J. Wiley. See ya.
Lowe's early Black Friday deals are going fast. Don't miss up to 50% off select major appliances. Plus, up to an extra 25% off when you bundle select major appliances. And with Christmas around the corner, you're gonna need more string lights, right? Save $4 on GE LED 100-count string lights, now just $5.98. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 12/3. Selection varies by location. Select locations only. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
Step into the shadows of history with the Your Town podcast. Each week, we uncover the chilling, bizarre, and often forgotten true stories that shape towns big and small, from notorious crimes to legends that refuse to die. If you love gripping storytelling, dark mysteries, and a journey into the past that feels way too real, this is the show for you. New episodes drop every Monday, so subscribe now and start exploring the stories history tried to bury. The Your Town podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts.